for that? Because you guys are a little slow this time around. Either way, I'm Mike the Intern from 104.7 The Cave. Just wanted to say thank you guys so much again for coming out. Every year we do this. Mitch and I were just kind of talking about it. We're going to ask the Queens. Has it been 9 years? They've been.
Well, I actually missed the very, very, very first year.
So how many years have you been?
What the heck?
Well, I wanted because that's relevant. That's relevant because that's relevant to what I'm going to say. So you say 9?
Yeah.
Then this would be our 10th year. So if you've been here since the beginning, which I see a lot of the same faces every year, and that means a lot to me that you guys keep coming back. I know that means a lot to Mitch. I know that means a lot to me. I know that means a lot to this guy, even though you won't say it.
Anytime I see a face that I'm familiar with, it means a lot.
So, with that said, and I'm getting there too, where we started out in a small little conference room off of Grand Street where we had like 20, 30 people in there for a lunch to this, it's because of you guys coming every year. It's because of these guys willing to do it. So thank you so much. It's my favorite thing to do as we kick off the season. Because we're going to train with that, a man to my right who needs no introduction, my sports partner for
I believe we're going on 10 years.
10 years, which I'm so thankful that I get to hang out with this guy every day. Ned Reynolds, everyone.
We better say something nice because I make coffee for him every single day and morning.
Hold on. I do a French press. I know that's going to sound a little, but I like coffee and I drink it black, right? So I'm not going to drink the Folgers somebody buys for the building. I drink my own stuff. I'm just saying. And so when he started, he always makes his own pot, which he likes the Folgers. I don't like the Folgers. So he heats me up a big pot of hot water every morning that I can pour over my French press. But I bought him a drink, so I mean, it's reciprocal.
He bought me a drink, and that's what counts.
It's all good. That'll get me till next year. On the very end, another man who needs no introduction, everyone, Danan Hughes. He, by the way, has a brand new podcast coming out this season called Players Only. Very excited about that. And I guess that means the man to my immediate left is not going to be on that podcast. A man who's got not enough to do, Mitch Holthus, everyone.
We'll make one more introduction to our boss man is here tonight, the guy who runs the show at our station, Brian Tyndall. Brian, if you will raise your hand, everybody knows who you are.
He's the one that buys the Folgers. He loves that stuff. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool, man.
Did he win the Pitbull lookalike contest?
Oh, you should have seen his eyes light up just like this, just now.
Look at his
Big
dick.
Diesel.
I'm a Pitbull tonight.
Vin Diesel.
Hands above the table, by the way. I said this a couple of times. You up there in the back row, hands above the table.
Also want to mention and say a big thank you to Art Haynes for being in the building once again. And then, if you didn't know, last fall we put on a new sports station, 102.1 The One. Ned does a sports morning show after he gets done with me with Mr. Scott Perkett over there in the corner. So thank you, Scott, for being here. Brilliant for being here. As we build that too, so really looking forward to that.
Fire away, man.
So I guess we'll start.
First of all, Art Haynes is at McGillicuddy's down in the basement, yes. And tonight we'll go back in time. Ned Reynolds will talk about when it was the Princess City of the Ozarks. And when Route 66 was Route 33. Ned Reynolds, everyone, Ned Reynolds.
I didn't know until this year that he played a donkey basketball game. I had no idea. And then I saw him in the documentary and I just looked at him and he was just like it was, yeah, we did that. And I was like, I've been sitting with you for 10 years. You never said a word about playing a basketball game with Kansas City Chiefs players on a donkey.
Only time in my life I've had to get off the ass until the ass.
Please say we got that recorded. Man. Or no, we're not live in that. That's a sweeper for a long time. So as we go into the 2026 season, Mitch obviously goes and lives with the players at University at St. Joseph, which is, I'm sure, a lot of fun. A lot of college parties. You can see the excitement. Kegers. See it.
Anybody seen Shawshank Redemption? That's my dorm room. I'm just telling you. Oh yeah.
What's the RA like? Strict?
Yeah, the warden of Shawshank. That's the RA.
But you know, we're going to get into this thing, and obviously there's going to be a lot of new blood in the red and gold this year. And I guess I want to start off with the RB room. We made a run for Kenny, got him, and now the conversation has kind of changed as to who that, because really number 2 and number 3 are going to be very, very important. We know number 1, that's done. What are you seeing in number 2 and number 3?
Well, everybody needs to be as excited about 2, 3, and I'm going to throw in 4 because I think there'll be 4 running backs make the team. But Ken, I got to meet him his first day in the building, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know him at Michigan State.
Ooh.
Hawkeye Hawkeye. Yeah. But it was like he fit right in right away. He's a humble dude. He didn't come in like, hey, I'm the reigning Super Bowl MVP, like rub my feet. He's not that guy at all. And then to get Amari DiMercato, I'm really excited about that. Let me just give you the stat of the night. We've had one 40-yard run since September of 23. DiMercato had 5 last year. He had the longest run against the Seahawks. He had the 71-yard run where he fumbles before he thinks he scored, but he didn't. He became a YouTube sensation. He kind of wants to overcome that. But Emmett Johnson will be a guy that will help us right away. And then I think Rashard Smith will kind of morph into a role where kind of like McColl, where he becomes, remember, he was a wide receiver at Miami of Florida before Art Haynes, alma mater of SMU, turned him into a running back. So he really has more of his football life as a wide receiver. So he can be a hybrid guy. But those 4 guys, you're going to get more than one 40-yard play. There's some explosiveness in that room.
Kenyon, you're a wide receiver, a great example at Iowa and for the Kansas City Chiefs and so forth. Wide receiver has been a big question mark for the Chiefs this year. How do you feel about it?
Well, Ned, first I'd like to say you kicked the show off in exceptional fashion by talking about the best core in football, the wide receivers. I appreciate that. That's how you keep me engaged. Because you know we were on the podcast the other day, and you started with defense, and I started nodding off. I was like, what the heck are we talking? Why do we got to talk about defense now? Yeah, the wide receivers. You know, I mention it all the time. I do it during the broadcast, especially during the pregame show, because Josh Klingler and I are doing the pregame show, and he's the sideline reporter, and he probably could sit up here and tell you about how many times I put my hand in my head and not just shook my head side to side because I'm watching the guys warm up. And there's so much of the game. If you've come here before, you've heard me talk about it. I don't see the game better than you all. I just see it different. I watch things different. I remember things different. Things were drilled into me to the extent of like automatic spasms. You know, like things that happen on the field, the way guys move, the way they warm up, the precision of what they're doing, the attention to detail. When you talk about the wide receiver position, I was brought up in the West Coast offense. Bill Walsh, you know, San Francisco 49ers. My first quarterback here was Joe Montana. You know, 12 yards meant 12 yards. Didn't mean 13, didn't mean 11. 5 steps, 3 steps, 20 yards, back to 18. Everything was precise. And when you watched at times, and part of it is because of the youth, and I'll get to that also in a second, but when you watched at times, there wasn't the precision that I thought was needed. And as great as Patrick Mahomes is, I feel like every quarterback needs consistency. And the number 1 rule I was always taught as a wide receiver, or the top 2 rules were be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and don't fool the quarterback. So if he's a quarterback that's expecting that cameraman is kind of on the outside, and that's about 15 yards away, and that's a deep out, and he's supposed to drop back, and I'm Patrick Mahomes, and I'm throwing it to his outer shoulder, kind of up high, away from the defensive back near that exit sign, I need to be there. I don't care that there's a defensive back in front of me. It's insignificant whether it's press man or off man or zone coverage or whatever else. My job is to get there so that the quarterback feels comfortable and the rhythm is on set. And I felt like last year specifically, and in previous years, because I'm going to be more skeptical of offense than others, it wasn't as precise. So I think the best acquisition, and I mentioned this to you, Ned, this past week, you and Art, was getting Chad O'Shea as the wide receiver coach. Because I feel like there's accountability that is going to be restored at the wide receiver position. The one concern, and I don't think it's a serious concern, is the youth in the room. Tyquan Thornton is 5-year pro. We just re-signed him. He came on strong last year, big playmaker. He's the oldest wide receiver we have on this roster. So everybody else is rookies, first year, second year, third year guys. So I think they're still moldable. They're still coachable. I've always said, and you've heard me say, coaches are the best brainwashers. They made me feel like if they told me to run through that wall, I wouldn't think about how impossible it was. I just asked them, okay, which shoulder you want me to use? You want me to use my right shoulder or left shoulder? You want me to go head first, which usually I went head first, which is part of the reason why Sam was short of a picnic. Anyway, but I think that's what the impact of Chad O'Shea will be on the young guys, as long as they receive it well. And that's why I'm going to specifically, my eyes are always going to morph towards the wide receivers and the attention to detail and the preciseness of what they're doing in their job.
So on that note, I agree with what you said about Coach O'Shea 1,000%. I think he brings a level of consistency to that room that we needed. I'm not one to make excuses, but last year, by week 3, I realized 2 things. One, the team was exhausted. If you look at the way the NFL year-round works, it is incredibly difficult for a team to go back to a Super Bowl after literally having a month off, and then you go back to training. You don't get that extra time. They did that 3 times in a row. So out the gate, that was evident to me as a fan. The other thing, though, that I think was evident was consistent and accountability that I think was lost for whatever reason down that line, complacency, if you will. And I think Coach Bieniemy brings that back to the building. What do you guys say about that?
Very much so. Yeah. Here's what I didn't realize till this year. We had guys postpone surgeries for 2 years. So, and Danan will tell you, there's, after every year, more often than not, there's stuff to get cleaned up, shoulders or knees or ankles, and we postponed it, Mike. Guys did not want to do that because we're on this run, and they didn't want to miss any time. And the fact that if there's any blessing of going 6-11 was the fact that we changed the oil in a lot of our guys. And Coach Reed was in excruciating pain most of the year last year. Knee, hip. There was almost one game he did from the press box. Nobody knew about it. Well, one game he almost missed, which he'll never miss. But I mean, so the fact is, to your point, one is to back up a bit, and then 2, this goes back to Danan's thought about precision. When I asked Pat, his biggest goal is to be way better in the execution within the play. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but it was a problem last year because we just did not execute as precise, and not just the passing game of the receivers, as everybody, the offensive line, running backs, even Pat. And so EB will bring that. He's just a drill sergeant off the, I don't know how many Marines are in here, but he's your drill sergeant at basic. And he brings that. It's not like he's going to think of some tricky play, but he'll be up your butt to do it right.
And I think it kind of echoes what Dan was saying, which shoulder should I use?
Yeah.
You see that with the players that play for Coach B.
And you need to have a complement of that. You need to have a complementary relationship and just a coaching staff where you have the good cops and the bad cops. You have the guys that you are scared to walk into a meeting room after a game because you know they're going to put the film on this big screen. And as we knew as players, film don't lie. There were times, like I think I brought this up maybe early years when I first started coming here, the playoff games in 1997, specifically against the Denver Broncos, I kicked the dude. Now, the referees shouldn't have saw it. But they did, and we got a penalty, and then 2 plays later, Ed McCaffrey runs a shallow cross and beats James Hasty down to like the 5-yard line, and we wind up losing the game. I came to the sideline, and I said I didn't kick him. Now, to my defense, I don't remember kicking him. It was not outside of my personality to kick him. I probably would have punched him, but evidently my hands were busy. But the film don't lie. And you can come into the meeting room and you can complain about the refs and you can talk about being held and illegal contact downfield, but the film on Monday does not lie. And players know that. So when you have a personality like Eric Bieniemy, you don't want to come into that meeting room on Monday having had excuses for Sunday play. Because you know that there's a guy that's going to have that clicker in his hand and, one, doesn't care about your excuses, doesn't care about your personal feelings, and has no qualms about embarrassing you in front of the other 60 players in the locker room. So I think there's automatic, think about it from your perspective in all of your businesses. If you had to come in every Monday and someone was recapping what you did the entire week the last week. And that wouldn't feel very good. So that's what I'm looking forward to is what am I going to see different from this past season or the past few seasons that we're going to see different this year because of that element, because I know those were scary days for me as a player to walk into that locker room.
Your Bayonne, New Jersey is what it is, and you learn to use your feet up there. Us South Jersey guys, we were gentlemen down there.
South Jersey.
We learned to grow tomatoes and carrots and things
Hey,
like that.
forget about it. Who died and left you, boss? North Jersey, kid.
But this isn't just offense. This is all 3 phases. And ask me about defense in a little bit because I'm going to take you down a path you haven't thought about, and it pertains to the defense, but it also special teams. Because Danan made his living in special. We were 4th most. We had the 4th most holding penalties in special teams last year. We were the 32 teams. I think we were 28th in the league in overall special teams penalties. Those are killers. And the league was so tight last year. It usually is, but that's got to get cleaned up. We were sloppy in special teams and would make a key penalty at a wrong time. That's got to get cleaned up too.
I want to throw to my partner, Scott Berger, up here. Scott, do you have any questions at all?
You silenced me, Ned.
Well, that's a shock.
That's the only time he's ever had his mouth shut, folks. Let me tell you.
Is that a microphone or a beer? I can't tell.
That's his mic. That's my special microphone.
Now, Mitch, the level of confidence in the Chiefs that Rashee Rice can fly right and be the player that they needed to be.
Well, this ties into Danan's answer a little bit ago. We have to, one of the big things that I think for our receiver core, I'm going to give you a global answer, then I'll go to specifically to him. We have to have guys make tight window catches. You hear about tight window throws, and when I talked with our offensive staff last year, later in the year, they go, "You mean contested catches?" No, I don't mean contested catches. I'm taking it a step further. A tight window catch. You have this much room to make a catch. The great receivers right now in our league are making those catches. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp in his prime. We could go down the line. They're making those catches. Rashi's got to prove he can make those catches and not just get plays where we scheme him into the play. It's 3rd and 6, and dude, you're going to get a quick slant, and you got to get 6.5 yards, and you're going to get whacked by a Denver safety that will not feel good. He's got to make that play, and he hasn't made that play really yet in his career. We've schemed him into stuff. Now, the other part of it is we all know that it's the responsibility that he's got when he leaves our facility. But that's a classic case where he has got to have the maturity to learn to leave his, I don't really want to say it, the influences that he has that are North Richland Hills, or when he walks out of your facility, what's he going to do and where's he going to go? Until he gets that figured out, I mean, he's just fortunate he's not wearing an orange suit or somebody got killed in that wreck. And then to come back and blow positive for weed when you're going in to clean up your knee, I mean, that's gotta change. So there's a lot on that young man's plate. But your question is one that I don't have an answer for, but we'll find out soon.
I was asked this question, or a very similar question, earlier this offseason as it pertained to Andy Reid and the influence or the conversation or what have you. And I don't know if this happened, but I would like to think that in some way, shape, or form it did. And if I was Andy Reid in that circumstance, with all that circulating and has happened with what Mitch had just talked about, my conversation, I have 5 kids, have 4 grandkids. 5 of my kids, 4 of them were athletes. They're much smarter than me, so they got that from their mom. But I would say, okay, like I would sit him down if we were in the office at some point during this off season, whether it was after he came out of prison or serving his sentence, or sometime maybe before. Are we done yet? Like, I feel like, if you have adult kids and maybe one of them might stray or something like that, or at some point in their life you had to sit down like, okay, like I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were like, the guy was talking about his dad just, brought him home from a party or something like that, and I said, are you tired? Like, are you tired yet? And from a human perspective, you have to believe that if you're Rashee Rice and you're able to push aside those influences and you're able to separate yourself from the friends that you've had, which is tough. It is extremely tough. It's easier said than done. I grew up in Jersey, North Jersey. When I went back home, like, I was the show. I was the party. I was, I'm 20-something years old and I got a lot of money. And friends and influences and other people would be around, and it would be tough to be able to separate yourself. That's the human part. We all know that. But I would like to think that at some point somebody, maybe it's Andy Reid, maybe it's Chad O'Shea, maybe it's Eric Bieniemy, maybe it's a family friend, maybe it's a pastor or whatever. Like, are we done yet? Like how much more do you want to? Like, how much more are you going to push the button, push the envelope? Like, and I would like to think that would click the light on. I would like to think that it would only have taken one instance for me. I would like to think that, but I don't know. But at the same time, I'd like to, like, from a human perspective, and I will tell you this from a personal standpoint. In interacting with Rashee, we have the rookie dinner after the draft every year before minicamp. And Mitch knows because he's hosting it most times. And they invite us Chiefs ambassadors in, and you got everybody from Bobby Bell and Jerry Cornelison, who's the last remaining Dallas Texan that played for the Chiefs as well, to Tamba Hali and Dante Hall and everybody else in between. Rashee Rice sat at my table. And when I tell you, upon him being drafted, that I was absolutely shocked that all of this was transpiring, because sitting across the table from him, I would have never guessed it. He was the most polished, polite, respectful kid that I had sat across, engaging, and then to see all this transpire, that would be like if I was to sit back down with him, like, oh, are you done yet, dude? Like, and that's got to be a personal decision.
You have just partially answered the question right there, Danan, and this is for both of you guys. In the times that you have been with the Chiefs, is there, in your opinions, both Danan and Mitch, a major difference in the psychology and the attitude of the college kids coming into the game now? Danan?
Yeah, go ahead and start. I've got it.
It's interesting because I found myself, from a psychological standpoint, questioning my existence in that arena, because fast forward to this year, that same rookie dinner, and I'm sitting around the table with some DBs, which that was just terrible for me to have to sit. That was torture. But I sat around the table of defensive backs, and they're all rookies, some, you know, drafted, some free agents. We had a very large group of kids that came in with the draft picks, right? It was the most ever, 100 something free agents, and mixed in with draft picks to try to make the team. And I remember, like, my normal spiel is, hey, give me a call if you need anything. And I remember catching myself mid-sentence and like, these dudes make more money than I did in college. Like, in college, they made more money than I make. So they don't need me to invite them for dinner. Like, you know. So it just kind of made me kind of reset my mindset of, with the NIL and all of that, that these kids are advanced in what you would think that they would need a little bit further than what maybe we understand. And then also the mindset. You see guys that are like, they're taking a pay cut to come to the NFL. A lot of them. Like, they may eventually make more, but they may not even make the average, 2.3 years still? Lifespan in the NFL. So think about it from a college perspective. You're the big man on campus, making a lot of money, and you come to the NFL and you have to scrape and scrounge for your opportunities. It's a different mindset. So it's a unique twist that I had to catch myself in how I communicated with them.
We're in a whole new solar system. And your question is very good. And I went to the combine this year, and the combine isn't so much of 40-yard times or the cone drill. It's about vetting and trying to figure out a player that you're not going to have on your team and invest in. These guys, a lot of these guys, and I could work for the draft. I dig deep. They'll be at 3 high schools and 4 colleges. You do not know really what they're about when things get really tough, 1. And 2, you have got to get a medical report on them. Well, imagine them coming to any one of your businesses, and you got somebody that comes in with a resume that they've been in 4 jobs in 4 years. That's a red flag. And then you're trying to find out, whether they have drug issues or what do we got here? Because now you're going to start, give them money. And here's the issue. The NFL's the end of the line. There are no transfer portals. And there's no, if I don't like it, I'll just check out. The NFL, I will tell you right now, is a little bit terrified because it is a guess on these guys, a lot of them. Even the guys that were good in college. But if they're in their 4th college, you call the 4th college, they go, yeah, he was pretty good for us, the 4 months we had him. And then you call school 3 or 2, and they're going, no, that guy's a jerk. Like, we gave him a bunch of money, and we're counting on him, and all of a sudden he's out the door and didn't even tell us. Well, what are you going to do? You're trying to vet these guys. And so it's because, there's a reason there were 100 guys at that, because you need to find, you got to try to get the witching stick out and try to find diamonds in the rough. Now, I am encouraged with our 2026 class. What we had to do was try to replicate the 2022 class, which was spectacular. I mean, counting free agents and draftees, there were 10 guys in that class, and we had them all but 1 for 4 years. That doesn't happen in the NFL. Well, now they're all scattered. We have George Karlaftis is the only one left. I mean, Brian Cook's gone, Leo Chanel's gone. They've lost. That's just the way the league is. So you've got to figure out a way to try to rediscover that 22 class in 26, and it's 5 times worse than that, harder to do. But we think we've got a pretty good group that we vetted, but you don't know until you know. But the NFL is the end of the line. And we'll see how this goes in this league for the next 5 years.
That would open up a whole nother conversation here about the NIL and NCAA that this may not be the forum for, because we're talking about Chiefs. But obviously I have some thoughts about that too.
Well, I mean, my next question was going to be specifically about the draft this year. And, I think going into it, a lot of us, present company included, were real high up on Bane, we needed to go D, we need to go edge rusher, that first pick, go the edge rusher. We go Mansour, which at the time I go, okay, well, if he doesn't pick an edge rusher at the end of this first round, it doesn't make any sense, and he does. After the day happened, I start, again, like, you know, because it's my job, I start processing, and then I kind of had the same thought process you did in your response about how these kids are coming into the league. I think everyone looked at what happened at University of Miami and said, it's not the players so much as it's the coach. Because almost every one of those guys in that front defensive line got drafted in the first 2-3 rounds of the NFL draft this year. That tells you, yes, those guys are talented, but their coach is the one who made it that way. So Beach must have seen that, had to have seen it. So I guess, am I wrong? What are your thoughts? Are you guys high up on Mansour? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to jump in here first, and because it leads into my thesis of what you haven't thought about. And that is, how do you get from 6-11 to 11-6 like this? And and this leads to the Mansour Delane pick. Last year, there were 16 times in our 11 losses, 16 times, and I've watched them all about 3 times over, every one of these plays, where the game is basically on the line or at the crux of the matter. Both Bronco games, both Charger games, Houston, Jacksonville, Dallas, I go right, the Raiders game at the end of the year, I go right down the line. We had 3rd and 6 or more and did not get a single stop. They made 3rd and 12. They made 3rd and 14. People go, well, it was a pass rush. No, it was everything. And a big part of it was the way the league is playing now. Because one of the most misleading stats we had last year that we were 6th in scoring defense. Teams were not trying to score on us. They were trying to control. We were last in the NFL, dead last, in the length of scoring drives by the opponent where they were taking time and still scoring. So that took half the time of possession away from us. We could not get stops on 2-step drop slants. That's what Bo Nix is getting rid of the ball in 1.85 seconds. You have to have a corner who can defend the slant like Surtain does for the Broncos. Enter Mansour Delane. I think Noel Williams is going to be that guy. He's aggressive. And so to get an elite corner, and I think Delane is elite, but to play the way we're playing football now in the NFL until it changes back, you have got to have a corner who's aggressive enough that can make the play without penalty on a 2-step drop on an 8-yard slant on 3rd down and 7. And you can talk about pass rush and trying to get there. You have to be disruptive. You have to affect the physics of the throw, but you're not going to get there. The ball's coming out. That's why it's coming out so fast. And so the Chargers are trying to play that way. The Broncos damn sure are. The Patriots play that way. The Bills are playing that way to protect their defense. It's really the AFC. The exception's in the NFC because the Seahawks and Rams aren't doing that. But the AFC is. So you better have some corners that can make plays. Much like the wide receiver has to make a play without being schemed into it, the DB has to make a play where they're not schemed into it. So enter the pick from Mansour Delane.
Yeah, I agree. I also like Peter Woods. I think that interior defensive line, there's something about his aura. I told Mitch about this early on. Without even seeing him on the field, there's just something about how he carries himself that makes me feel like, oh, this guy's going to be a beast. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him I've seen him in shorts. I'm looking forward to seeing him in pads, kind of be a force, because then that will hopefully free up Chris Jones. And then getting a speed on the outside edge is going to be key for this year. But again, to Mitch's point, it doesn't matter if quarterbacks are getting the ball out quick. You have to have guys that are going to be glued to wide receivers down the field. And like, we missed deflected passes, missed opportunities, errant throws. We weren't necessarily in the right place at the right time. And when you have the prior year, the Super Bowl run that ended in the blowout against the Eagles, we were 12-0 in one-score games, all the way to the playoff, all the way through the Super Bowl, 12-0. Last year, no, not so much. And it's those plays, those tip balls, the fumble that skirts out of bounds that we don't get on, the stop on 3rd and 14 when it should be just automatic that we force a punt or a field goal, they get to extend the drive. Those are the things that have to be sharpened up.
Toenail from hitting the, can I give you some sleepers in this class too? R. Mason Thomas. I'm really excited about him. Think about Nick Benito and what we have to do when we play the Broncos. He is from the same area as Nick Benito. He has the same measurables as Nick Benito. Played at OU, but he is laser fast off the edge. We'll use him as a sub guy, but he could give us in 1.8 seconds at least something to disrupt the play for Ivan Drago. I mean Bo Nix, sorry. Another one is Cyrus Allen, the wide receiver. We'll see. Pads come on, but there's more there than I thought we were getting. And so the kid from Cincinnati, Cyrus Allen, and then a free agent, not drafted, is Khalil Benson at right tackle. He'll be in the mix with Asapole and Jalen Moore to try to win that spot. But he played for Indiana in their run to win the national championship, and there was enough this summer to go, oh, maybe there's something there as an undrafted player. But those are the three sleepers.
When you have guys who are holdovers who have experienced great success over virtually 10 years, and they have a year like last year, the holdovers who you have, in your opinions, judging from what they do and what they think, how have they handled that, and what is their attitude coming into camp? Danan?
So I would say Mitch, being insider, he would probably know better how they handle it. But I, from an outsider's perspective, believe that 6-11 was necessary on several levels. I think if you were 9-8 and just missed the playoffs, you can put Band-Aids over some things and think that, oh, we're not too far off. We just went through a 3 Super Bowl year run. We just got to tweak this, and no changes but adjustments, and that's not too bad. If Patrick would have been healthy and we went 9-8, we'll be okay. 6-11 changes things. It slaps you in the face because, as was it Parcells said, you are what your record is, and that's who we are. So I feel like from being a guy in that locker room who went 12-4 as a rookie, then in '94 lost first round to Miami, to going 13-3, then a little bit down in '96, and then back to 13-3, and having that up and down, and then '98 not even making the playoffs. It's a reality check. So I think the 6-11 is the reality check that a lot of those holdovers, as you mentioned, Ned, like you have to look yourself in the mirror and have to decide, did I work to the extent of what I want to show and display for 6-11? And what do I need to do to get back to 13-4 or 12-5 or whatever it is that gets us to the pinnacle where we're used to? So I feel like it was necessary, and I'm really, really excited about like looking in their eyes or looking at their mannerisms or watching the body language in how did that slap you in the face, George and Chris and everybody else? How did that affect you, and how are you actively changing that in real time? Week 1 against the Broncos, week 2 against the Colts. Like, how was that affected, even at training camp? Because I guarantee you, with the coaches that we have, like coaches are the best brainwashers. They're gonna be in your ear like the Great Gazoo. I'm definitely dating myself right now with the Flintstones reference. The Great Gazoo on your shoulder, telling you, you were 6-11. You're a 6-11 player. They're talking about these other teams and the Houston Texans and what they got on their defense, and you guys are not even close, and stuff like that. And that's going to change the dynamic. But I feel like 6-11 was necessary.
And I would say it's a combination. I have been around him this spring and summer, and I like what I see. But you think about the Nick Boltons, the George Karloftis, Pat, obviously, but Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey. There's a combination. They were pissed. And there was a feeling, though, of, okay, let's go get the oil changed. It's you driving around town with your engine light on. You're going, I hope it goes off. It ain't going to go off. And so I'm going to get cleaned up, but I'm pissed, and I'm a little bit embarrassed, because we set a standard now with us that's pretty high. And so, all of those combinations, I'm like Danan, I'm excited to see what happens at St. Joseph. Because if I see it manifested what I saw this spring and summer, it's a counterattack. I call this year the counterattack. And we'll bring some fury.
What does pissed off look like? I feel like as a fan base, don't you want to see that? Yeah. What does pissed off look like? What does embarrassment look like? What does 6-11 bounce back look like? And I'm eager to see that as well.
And on that note, I'm going to walk around and let you guys ask questions before
While
we
Mike
do
is
that.
going around, folks, I'm going to ask Mr. Holthus here, who is a veteran broadcaster, he's been around a long time, and has done many, many events. Going to put him in a situation now in which he is broadcasting a game. It is not a football game in this country. It is F-U-T-B-O-L. Mitch Holthus, how do you describe a player who has hit the deck on the field on the critical list, probably not going to make it for another 25 minutes, and he's back on the field playing in 30 seconds? How do you describe that?
Well, I believe in the Bible, and I believe in the story of Lazarus. I did not think I would see it in every flippant soccer game, but oh my God. I don't think he's going to get up. Oh my God, I think he's dead. Wait a minute, it's a jackrabbit, and he's just running down the field. I'm like, what is this? And is it JFK? Like, get the Zapruder film out. Oh my God, what just happened here? Oh, wait a minute, he's running down the field 20 seconds later. You don't want me calling that on the air. Sorry. Love soccer's great. A lot of you probably played it and all that, but they got to get, like we talk about NBA flops or basketball flops. Oh no, they got nothing on soccer.
I feel like two rules watching soccer and watching the World Cup. My daughter played college soccer as well, but if they eliminated offsides and they gave you a time clock for flopping, if you're not up in 5 seconds, you got to come off the field.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
that
by the
would
way,
change the landscape of the entire soccer community and the viewership and the fandom. But it's supposedly the #1 sport in the world, so they're not going to change it. But if you can have fast breaks and a guy like Messi can just outrun somebody and the ball's coming and you don't have to wait to be onside and the defender doesn't slow down so that you can be offside, all that cat and mouse stuff. And then if you get hit, clipped, elbowed, shoulder, whatever, and you fall down, you don't get up in 5 seconds, somebody's coming in for you. I think it would change the landscape of the sport.
who else did it? No, wait a minute. Who else has got, it drove me crazy. You're like, oh, it's the end of the match. Oh no, wait a minute, Vladimir has put on 13 more minutes. And who decides that, right? You say, we really want Ecuador to win, so let's put on 7 more minutes. No, it's 18 minutes. Like, oh my God, why don't we just put 90 minutes out? Like, oh, it's...
Ned's just doing this because I told him how much I liked watching the World Cup this year. And he just made fun of me the whole time about it. I got your first question up here, boys.
My question is about the offensive line. It felt like last year Patrick was pressing a lot and probably was less effective because he wasn't being protected. Probably affected the running game as well. It just seemed like the offensive line was getting their butts handed to them on certain games.
Well, I will say this, and I've said it as simply as this in the past. The challenge for Eric Bieniemy this year and in the past years, and Andy Reid every year, is how often do we run? If Josh Klingler, a sideline reporter, was here, he would be pulling out his hair because every single game he talks about running the ball more. But I've always countered that with, in simplicity, every time we run the ball, the best player in the league does not have the ball. So if you're Andy Reid and you're an offensive coordinator and you're a run game coordinator and you're coming up with a game plan, like I would feel like there'd probably be sleepless nights wondering how often should we not have the best player in the league have the ball. So I feel like that's always going to be a component of this offense. Now, I will say that from the injury standpoint to Patrick Mahomes, that might be the boost back towards the run game that is necessary. And I think it's going to be more of a psychological thing from Patrick, as well as just an overall game plan, because now we're kind of forced to run the ball or lean less on Patrick making magic than we have in the past. So that's one of the encouraging points that I think, but I also think it's an attitude, and it kind of goes back to my earlier point about the accountability factor. Like, you hit people in the mouth in a run game. If you ask any offensive lineman, past or present, they will tell you the most gratifying thing about the game of football is moving somebody against their will. Right? Just, they don't want you to move them, and you get to move them. And that's why you'll hear from most offensive linemen that their most favorite part of the game is the run game. And you have to have that attitude, but you also have to have the accountability. So I think with Ken Walker and this run game, you don't acquire that guy, and you don't acquire a DeMarcado to have them be a part of an offense that is predictable and passing. So I think there's going to be some forced elements of the run game that I'm excited about.
Two areas that I was most excited about this spring and summer, where I think there's going to be dramatic improvement, were the offensive and the defensive line. If Josh Simmons can get everything figured out on, off the field, he will be an elite left tackle. He is so athletic, and it'll be an interesting camp for him, but he looked really, really good spring and summer. We know the interior three. Kingsley Suamati is a guard. He now is going to have a chance to be a really good guard. We know about Creed and Trey. Right tackle is the discussion. Khalil Benson, Esapole, and Jalen Moore. There will be a three-way battle to win that job. But something else to think about that's not so obvious is the league has also turned into 6 offensive lineman league, meaning you need 6. It used to be it'd be every month they'd bring in a guy that would rubbish in Oregon. I'm an eligible lineman, but I'm wearing a 60 number. Now it's part of teams' offenses. The Broncos do it, the Chargers do it, we go down the line, the Bills do it, and we need 6 offensive linemen. So those 3 tackles that are involved at right tackle, we really need 2 of those guys to be every down players. But I saw enough encouraging signs there to think that group could be dramatically improved. Now, when you talk about Pat running for his life, Pat's also part of this equation. We'll have a protection called, like you call scat protection. That means you're going to do I'm going to set my feet a certain way, or we'll shift 2 to the right. Pat cannot leave that protection. And I love him, but there are times when Pat, and we've seen him do awesome things on the improvisation, but sometimes he'll even drive our O-line crazy, because he's supposed to be where Ned's at, and he's where Danan's at. And if I call scat protection, I'm trying to block where Ned's at. So all of that is part of what Pat has said about work. He's talking about himself as well, about each individual play, and being able to execute properly from all 11 guys, every play.
And it's a trust thing. Patrick has to learn how to trust his guys. And as good as they are, as talented as they are, in your mind, the game is so fast. And sometimes as a fan, we get enamored with slow motion and freeze frame. And it kind of brings me off on a different tangent about penalties and all that other stuff, because the game is so fast. I truly believe that instant replay should only be a certain speed. There should never be a freeze frame in regards to any aspect of instant replay and penalties or reviews, because the game is so fast. But having said that, there's also a component, and Mitch has heard me talk about it, and he knew it before I even spoke about it, where game plans against Patrick Mahomes. Anytime you see the ball lined up on the hash, defenses will force him. They'll bring a blitz, or they'll bring the defensive end. So try to envision the offensive line is out in front of you, like you guys. You guys are the offensive line here. Second row is the defensive line. They will have that person out there, which is what they call a wide 9 technique. Right? So you have 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So he's way outside linebacker, Nick Benito type, that's just going to use his speed to run all the way upfield. Well, where the ball is on this hash, you'll likely see that wide 9 will be over here so that he can run. Now, he's just trying to outrun the tackle and force Patrick to go where? That way. Now, if the ball's on this hash and that wall is the sideline, Patrick is not only running to his left, which means that even though we've seen him throw lefty, he has to flip his hips and try to find his receivers. And then you have to hope that the offensive play was geared towards some receiver actually being on that side of the field or coming to that side of the field. But if every receiver is running something that way, he's running for his life this way. He has to trust that just because that guy is running really fast upfield, my guy got him. He's not going to get him. Whether it's Jalen Moore or whoever, he's blocking him. I'm just going to stay right here so I can have the buffet of receivers and tight ends still available to me and not freak out and go that way or short that way. And I want to say the COVID year was not just my first year in broadcasting, but the Chargers game with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack was the first time I saw that implemented against Patrick Mahomes, where they were emphasizing force him to rush to the short side of the field to cut off any receivers, as many receivers as possible, and trust that he's going to vacate the pocket because that's what he wants to do. He wants to use his legs. I actually got a chance to hang out with Ndamukong Suh this past summer, and he even reiterated from the Super Bowl against the Bucs. Yeah, that was our game plan. We knew that he wanted to move. We just wanted him to move where we wanted him to move. And shorten the field, and every time the ball's on a hash, we're trying to get him to go, even if it's to his right. Hash, get him going to his right. Don't give him the wide field. And then it'll reduce his opportunity to make big plays down the field. But it also comes with Patrick recognizing, as Mitch mentioned, I don't have to move. I don't have to move. My guy got him. He's going to block him, and it's going to be okay. So I think that's going to be a part of the maturation process. And to think that somebody as great as Patrick Mahomes still has some maturation to go, I think that's pretty cool for the Chiefs Kingdom.
We got another
Where's
one.
the offensive lineman? We got the high school offensive lineman. He's still here? Okay, maybe he's gone. But the RPO for an offensive lineman is the hardest thing to do. It is so hard because it's a run or a pass. So I can't go too far down the field. I can't drive you into next week because we may throw it. Probably are going to throw it. In fact, our RPO basically is just a P. But one way to take care of trying to force Pat to the short side of the field and all that discussion is to take Ken Walker or whatever and run it up their nostril, right? And then you play pass off the nostril. And then, so it'll be interesting to see if we make that adjustment. Mike?
You talked about that other sport a while ago. Some people call it football, some people call it soccer. It cost my high school football team, its football program. So we call it organized running in your underwear. But that's not the question. The question is, there's been a name that hasn't been talked about tonight. And I just wondered how much of a distraction, if any, is the Mr. and Mrs. Kelsey situation.
And side question, did you get invited to the wedding?
So I just want to say, I want to make this announcement. You guys are hearing it first. You ever see the movie Coming to America?
1,000 times.
When the guy sang Queen to Be? Mitch actually did that this year at the wedding. Was I not supposed to tell them that you sang that song? Oops, my bad. She's the Queen to...
Who wanted him change the batteries in him? I offered to be an acolyte. I said, I'll be an acolyte for that. I didn't make the cut. It's a very interesting question, and I think more compelling than you think. One of Coach's main pillars, and was since he drove into town, and one thing that's cool, this will be his 14th year with us, and he was with the Eagles for 14. I love that. We tied the Eagles there. but one of his main postulates is eliminate distractions. And Kels loves being with the guys in camp. In fact, I think it's really what has driven him back. I would have lost $100 to everybody in the room because I would have told you he's done after the last 2 years. He would see me and he'd come and give me a hug, like, hey, thanks for everything. I'm like, he's done. But once he gets away from it, he realizes what Danan or anybody that played the game and they get away, you never replicate that ever in your life ever again. The locker room, the feeling of trying to survive long drive drill at camp, being in the cold tub with the guys, that all is stuff that Travis loves. He loves the game. But your question is one, even if he loves the game, all of that peripheral stuff, how do you keep it from being a distraction? Because even if he says, I don't want it to be a distraction, it'll be a distraction at camp. Every day there'll be people thinking about that and not about football. I even told the Queens tonight, the famous Queens of the Queen City of the Ozarks, that, and there's an element in our, not the football side, but the business side, that is kind of caught up in Hallmark movies and Elf on the Shelf and let's go get the Brazilian singer. That's all stuff that really doesn't count. What counts is football. And Kels wants to play football. And so I think it's a very key element of what happens between now and the 14th of September is to stay focused in our whole organization and everybody else to get hyper-focused on football. Because that's what we need to do. It can even be sublime and drift you away from the task where you don't even know it's happening.
And I think that's a good way to close this down, guys. We're out of time. Get your mind on football. Thank you again to the law firm of Western Charlton, British Paper Roger, Marshall Chevrolet, Rich Kramer Construction, and of course our partner, Boys and Girls Club of the Ozarks. Again, big thank you to Danan Hughes for coming down from Kansas City. Big thank you to Mitch Holthus coming down as well before he goes back to school, just like Roger Dangerfield. And big thank you for Ned for staying up past his bedtime. But as we like to do when we close this thing down, we'll let Mitch do his thing. Close it up for us.
Everybody's going to do it.
Everyone's going to do it.
Everybody.
You lead.
Everybody's going to do it. All right?
Everyone's got to stand up too. Come on.
When we get touchdowns,
Wake up.
they're to be celebrated. I mean, if the World Cup, if they go crazy on a goal, have you ever noticed that? They get one goal in the, I don't know, before stoppage time, and we have a parade for the goal. And if we win a quarterfinal game, we really have a parade. Like, it's just the quarterfinals. But when we get a touchdown, it's to be celebrated. So, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Touchdown! Kansas City!
Thank you guys again for coming out. We hope to see you again next year. And as always, go